A public service announcement warns one state-line city about a children's toy looking eerily similar to real guns. WIFR's Nathaniel Langley speaks with those in Freeport, calling it a rampant problem.
Freeport police officers report teenagers are shooting gel pellets the size of a pea at residents. I spoke with a community activist calling the toys just as dangerous as firearms. You might know Orbeez as children's water toys, but Freeport knows them as a danger to resident safety.
One shot that hits the pupil of an eye can blind someone.
Just this week, the Freeport Police Department warned the community about Orbeez guns, but Wendy Pearson saw the plaything harm her niece earlier this year.
She walked to the store with one of her friends from school. When they came out of the store, a car pulled up and just started shooting at them.
An increase in calls prompted law enforcement to issue Tuesday's public service announcement. Pearson hopes the problem motivates lawmakers to help troubled teens.
We could tame some of this by giving them an outlet as to where they could shoot those guns.
Orbeez guns reminds the activists of a previous public nuisance from teenagers, skateboards.
We gave them someplace to, because the biggest reason we did was because they were a hazard on the streets. So we gave them a park where they could actually do that kind of stuff.
The uncanny look of the toy could confuse anyone, but the best defense against the pellets is alerting authorities.
Say that anybody that is aware of the fact that this is occurring and who is doing it, I would suggest that you say something rather than allowing it to continue to happen.
Freeport police say firing an Orbeez gun at anyone violates the city's prohibited weapons ordinance. That could get you a ticket or arrested in Pretzel City. Reporting from Freeport, I'm Nathaniel Langley, WIFR News.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Law enforcement also encourages adults to talk to their kids about the weapons. Authorities say the toy stops being a toy when it victimizes others.